Hello and welcome to Live with the Pricing Lady. I am Janine Liston, your hostess for this show. This show is all about helping small business owners get better at pricing. Whether you need a good pricing strategy, you're not quite sure how to set your prices, or you struggle with those pricing conversations, this is the place for you to learn more and to gain confidence in what you're doing. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm very excited today to have a very special guest, Mr. Hello, Walter. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Janine. Thank you for having me here. It's my pleasure.
You're very welcome. Walter, why don't we go ahead and get started and first have you introduce yourself to those who are watching?
Well, my name is Walter Esser. I'm born in Germany, in the lovely city of Aachen. I came to London 20 years ago. I worked more than 30 years in the corporate world, and I'm now a coach for personal and entrepreneurial excellence. Now, if you ask me how I did get to coaching, then I have to answer with a proverb that we use in Germany very often. We say, I got to it like the virgin conceded a child. You know, it's like it came to me. It just chose me, and here I am. And I'm also a fresh entrepreneur. I registered my limited company after a few years of on the side coaching, beginning of May this year, of the tender age of 66. So but I still have great things to do. And then I was thinking back in preparation of today, I actually had my first pricing experience at the age of 10. So when my best friend, neighbor, son of the neighbors, and I decided to produce a Sunday morning news magazine with the latest breaking news, which we just pinned down from the late night show on television in the evening. And these were the good old days when football all started at 3 o'clock on Saturday. So we had all the football results. We had the table of the Bundesliga there. And I mean, now since 20 years, I'm following all the Premier League in London. But and we sold it for 2 Deutschmark and 50 Pfennig, because we had a benchmark. My father was a subscriber for a Sunday newspaper, which was 2 Deutschmark, and we said we offer more value. It's handmade, it's hand delivered, it's curated content. And I think we did it right.
Wow. I think you started off very well at a very young age.
Yes.
What a wonderful story.
We had a our record number was six newspapers every Sunday.
Wow. Fantastic. What a way to start. So, Walter, thank you again so much for joining us today. And, you know, we met on the platform Nest, which is a platform, a social media platform for entrepreneurs. And we were talking about pricing for coaches and how, you know, what a wonderful topic it is. Also a challenging one for coaches, this topic of pricing, and how we both felt that, you know, there's a real challenge, a real trouble there for coaches, and that they're really bad at valuing themselves. So I'd like to hear your first thoughts on that and why you say that.
Well, I say this, actually, I got the evidence yesterday. Yesterday evening, I had a look on Facebook, on one of the various coaching groups on Facebook, and somebody posted a question there and said, what is your biggest fear as a coach? I think it was life coaching. And the biggest fear was, I don't know enough. And the second biggest fear was, I don't know how to communicate my price. I'm shy to ask my price.
Shy.
And when I did the preparation a couple of weeks ago, I found an article on the Harvard Medical News magazine, which says coaches, especially life coaches, are either overpricing or they thinking too much, or they thinking very, very low. There's hardly a realistic middle.
Right.
And it's always driven by the question, or always driven sort of by guilt. what on earth can I do to justify that amount of money for 1 hour of work?
No.
So,
Well, to
and
me, the first challenge in there is thinking that 1 hour of work defines what you should charge, and I would very heavily challenge that 1 hour of work is the definition of value, right?
absolutely. I mean, you know the famous story of Picasso, who was asked in a restaurant by somebody if he could scribble him a little painting on a napkin. And Picasso did it, and he handed over the napkin and says, "That's $20,000." And I said, "What? $20,000 for 5 minutes of work on this shitty piece of paper?"
Right.
And Picasso said, "You're wrong. It's not five minutes of work. It's my
Right.
whole life."
Yeah. And I think that that's a very relevant statement and a very important one, not just that coaches need to think about, but that we all need to think about, because when you're selling services, you're actually selling expertise, know-how, and experience, right?
Yes, exactly. And the whole point is the value for the client, the
Right.
value that you give to the client. And this is why I advocate outcome focused coaching. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
you do, if you're a health coach, if you're a life coach, or a relationship coach, or
Right.
a communication coach, it always, in my view, needs to be outcome focused.
Right.
So
Right.
the client needs to know what value he or she will get from taking this course or this package or even this membership.
Yeah.
And when the customer realizes, the client realizes the value, then your
Mm-hmm.
service can almost become priceless.
Yeah, it's true. I always tell clients that, okay, they say, well, where should I set my price? And I said, well, the price is somewhere between zero and infinity. Let's start
Yeah.
narrowing that down. Because you
Well,
can find people
yeah,
who give it away for free, and you can find people who charge,
yeah,
you know, tens, hundreds, even of $1,000 a day, sometimes even an hour.
yeah.
And where you are in that landscape is what you're trying to find out, right?
And it's also very important that you stay out of the competition with which what you can offer. Stay as far out of the competition as possible. And I
Right.
like to use the example of famous Nespresso. I'm not talking about the environmental impact here. I'm talking about the fact that people happily pay around about 80 euros for a kilo of coffee when they choose Nespresso, and you
Hmm.
get in the supermarket, you get high quality coffee for 15 euros, high quality.
Right.
But nobody talks about it. It's not coffee and coffee, it's coffee and espresso. So if you want to be a successful high pricing coach, be an espresso coach.
Very good. So now, why do you think that coaches specifically find this difficult? I have my own opinions, but I'm curious, as a coach yourself, where you think that challenge comes from.
Okay, let me start with the fact when I read or talk with fellow coaches and I ask them, why are you doing what you do? I very often hear, "Oh, I love helping other people,"
Hmm.
which is a very good thing.
It's very
And
noble.
it's a very noble thing. Yes, absolutely. And if you want to make a living of it, that's very noble as well. Now, I remember discussions with people who said, "Oh, I can tell you one example. I'm a certified wing wave coach, among other
Right.
things. And in the wing wave coaching community, which is very well organized, and is also we are it's very well curated with academic research, etc. We have a sort of a rule, an unwritten rule, say we are not charging an hour a session under 150 euros or pounds a
Hmm.
session. So, but that's a different story. But when you want to make a living of it, um, let me explain it with Jung, Carl Gustav Jung. One of
Okay.
the great psychoanalysts, and he created this model of the archetypes. So you have the
Hmm.
warrior, you have the sage, you have the lover, you have the jester. And
Hmm.
it's like in Star Wars, you have the force and you have the dark force.
Right.
So a lot of coaches are very strong lovers, which is very good. They're very caring. Yeah,
Something you want in a coach.
that's what you want in a coach. But the lover also has a shadow, and the shadow is the pleaser. The
Ah,
pleaser needs approval, and
right.
the pleaser struggles with asking a fair price.
Right.
And the
Very
pleaser
interesting.
is also happy with testimonials that begin with, "Oh, Walter is such a warm person and such a loving and caring person. I
Right.
don't want to hear this as a coach." No, if you want to change people,
Mhm.
you need in a respectful way, with keeping good rapport, you need to shake up their world,
Right.
and
Right.
then they are ready
Get
for change.
results.
But I think that's one of the, if you say that, I think that's a big reason,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
loving, caring attitude and the shadow part of it.
Yeah, I think that's very relevant. I never thought about it in that way. One
Yeah.
of the things that I see is a fear or reluctance. I'm not sure which, or maybe it's a combination of both, to be concrete about the outcomes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think part of it is because the outcomes are very much dependent on the client doing the work, right?
Mhm.
As a coach, you can only guide them, and kind of lead the way, but you can't necessarily do the work for them. And so I think also they struggle with being concrete about what the results are.
Yeah.
Therefore, the value isn't necessarily seen.
Yeah. Well, I quote a friend of mine who is a great coach and a great trainer, and he
Mm-hmm.
says, when you enroll a client into a program,
Right.
then you are actually starting a disqualification process.
Uh-huh.
Yeah? A lot of people who start out in coaching, they are happy for their first client. They say, "I got a client, hooray!" Yeah.
Right.
If you want to grow as a coach, and if you want to succeed, and also if you want to grow your value and your price,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you and your client are not the next failure to each other.
Or not a what?
So the next failure to each other.
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So let me give you an example. Um, I know somebody who is a very good hypnotherapist,
Mm-hmm.
and he is specialized on smoking, get rid of smoking. And when somebody comes to him and wants to book a non-smoking course, he has two chairs in his room, and he says, "Okay, this is the changing chair. Are you
Mm-hmm.
ready for become a non-smoker?" "Yes, I am." I said, "Hang on, you're not allowed to sit in this chair. I have to ask you a few questions." And he asked him very tough questions, and
Right.
and just when he is totally satisfied that this client is totally committed, he is allowed to
Right.
take the changing chair. And that means, this is just a metaphor. When you go to
Right.
this qualification process with your client, you know
Right.
this guy has the stamina, the
Right.
desire to go through the program to the outcome.
Right.
And
Right.
the role of a coach is, when somebody hits a barrier, to you know to steer up the determination,
Mm-hmm.
the resilience. Okay, you
Yeah.
you hit a barrier. Come on now. That's why I'm here. I hold you accountable. I
Right.
do not promise you reach your goal for doing nothing, but I promise to hold you accountable, and
To hold it.
together
Yeah.
we'll get to the goal. And
We get to.
that's why I also like a coach to a fellow traveler.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. I think that that's a really good sort of answer to, or partial answer to one of my next questions, which is okay, so if they're not good at it, what can they do? And what I hear in that answer is the first step is you need to, before they become a client, there's a process of assessing their readiness to be working with you, and therefore to get the full value of working with you so that you can
Exactly.
feel confident in what you're charging,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So what other tips when it comes to pricing in your experience do you have for coaches?
Well, we have only half an hour, so, so
20 minutes.
20 minutes. So
Yes, sir.
I keep it short. First of all, you heard this before, but I cannot
Mhm.
stress this enough. Be aware of the specific value that you can add. It
Right.
doesn't need to be something completely brand new. I mean, I heard from a guy in Spain who has specialized on coaching people in how to deal with their mother-in-law. So, well, you don't need to be that specific. It's a great USP, but your niche can be very, very narrow at some stage.
Right.
But I
Right.
think if you can convince yourself of your value and can
Right.
convince of the value, say that I'm the one who is 100% committed to get my client to the achieved outcome. When you can say, I have this experience, that specialty, I know from having a little preview that we have nutritionists, health coaches,
Right.
communication coaches on the course.
Right.
Be aware of your own value, and then practice it. Practice it. Use your Zoom without anybody on Zoom. Talk to yourself. Make a video. Talk to a mirror,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
but especially make sure that what comes out of your mouth, the message
Mhm.
that comes out of your mouth, is absolutely congruent with what you stand for.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
There is this famous sentence, "Fake it until you make it," which there is some value in it, but be congruent. And when you're congruent in what you think and what you say and what you do,
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
telling your price, naming your price, and communicating your value is not an issue anymore. But
Right.
it's a
Right.
learning process.
Right. Right. I think it's very important for people to understand that, not everybody will communicate value in the same way. And some people, sometimes clients will be like, oh, do I really need to do this? And I always say, actually, if you're better at communicating your value, even if the value is the same as what other people are doing, if you're better at communicating it, and you're delivering it, of course you have to deliver it, but if you're better at communicating it, then you are going to have an easier time at it than at getting the prices that you need than the next person. And it's because people will understand and see the value that much more quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another tip that I would like to give, and that again comes to congruency and being convinced about your own value, is for
Love it.
coaches, go to a pitching event.
Ah,
Go and pitch. Yeah. Imagine,
yes.
imagine, imagine you stand in front of the dragons in Dragon's Den, and you have to
Yes.
convince them of you have to convince them of an idea, of the idea of coaching,
Yes.
of a specific idea of coaching, and make it in a way that you want £10,000 or £100,000 of them
Right.
for your marketing budget. You have to be compelling. And pitching is a great exercise. I attended a pitching session on EndNest myself. I can only recommend it to anyone.
Right. So there's a couple of things, two, three things I heard in there. One is practice is going to be really key. And this is also something I work a lot with people on. You just practice to the point that your message, those first two or three sentences, rolls off your tongue so easily that you don't even have to think about it
Mhm.
anymore. One
Yeah.
way to do that, like you said, is to go to a pitching event. And because Walter brought it up, I'll take the opportunity. I also co-host with a couple of people, Perfecting Your Pitch on the Nest platform. I'll put the link to that in the comments if anyone of you would like to come and join us on Nest and join Perfecting Your Pitch, so you can do just that. And then the other thing I heard you say at the very beginning of this section was that you have to believe in the value yourself. And this is something that's really dear to my heart,
Mhm.
because I think that where a lot of people struggle in setting their prices when it comes to having conversations with
Mhm.
clients or even non-clients about what they charge, that they're kind of delivering the price as a question as opposed to this is what I charge. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's again, the price. The price itself is not not the most important thing. And I can only say, I can only say one thing not to do at all. Don't ever, as a coach, develop a price list. Because when you start to put a price list in your window, then you make your service a commodity. And when you make your service a commodity, then you sign up for trouble, because then you get into you get into this apple and pear comparison. I think people, because it is a product that needs, it's very application specific in technical terms. When we speak to entrepreneurs, it's application specific, and people need to understand a little bit more about it.
Right.
And you would not simply put the price for an application in the shop window.
Yeah. All right, Walter. So we're coming here to the end of our talk together. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you who have been joining us. We're so happy to have you here with us. If you have questions, go ahead and plop them into the comments below, and Walter and I will address as we can after the show. So Walter, I have a couple or three questions for you before we wrap this up. I'm just trying to read my question to make sure I get them in the right order. So first thing, what's the one thing that you want everybody to know as a result of having listened to our conversation today?
The one thing is, be aware of your value, be congruent with yourself, and practice to communicate your value.
Wow. You just summarized a whole 20-minute conversation. Fabulous. Second of all, what's the one thing that as an entrepreneur you wish you knew before you started that you'd like to share with the rest of us? Doesn't have to be pricing related.
No, it's a very
It can be.
that's a very good question. It's not so much a question of knowledge, is a question of things that I didn't want to know. I told you in the beginning, I had this experience as a young boy, and I was innocent. I just did it, and it worked. And over the years, over the decades,
Right.
I learned many things that took the sting out of me. And when you get into employment, I can tell you, I know that the founder of Endness is joining in, who likes to say that entrepreneurship is a strong drug, but I can tell you that being in employment is something that makes you very, very lazy. I think if we talk about drugs, I then would think being in employment is probably the heroine of everything.
Okay.
It disempowers you, and it takes a lot of energy at a certain stage to say, I leave it all behind, I take the risk, I make the leap, and I jump into entrepreneurship. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. I agree with that. So Walter, if people would like to find out more about how to work with you, or they have questions for you, where can they reach you?
I mean, there is my website, but I think now you're here, and I'm glad that you're here and listen in. Once you're here, then I would invite you to just to send me an email.
At Walter at EUSoftSkills.com.
Exactly, and we can fix the date, or I can send you a calendar link, and we book a network conversation without any commitments.
Right.
as a part of my disqualification process. The other thing is I want to mention is, and that's probably where Endness also comes in. I used the opportunity of the preparation that I did for today to launch a workshop for coaches, specifically for coaches, exactly on that theme. How do I identify and communicate my value, and how do I enter into a price talk?
Right. Okay. So if you contact Walter at this email address, then you can get more information about that workshop as well. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, very good. So, Walter, thank you so much for joining us today. I very much appreciate you being here with us. We've had lots of comments from those of you who have been watching us live. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to your questions and comments as well. Of course, I am the pricing lady. And if you have questions about how to do pricing in your business, you can always reach out to me at janineliston.com/discovery call, and we can have a chat about how to get your pricing strategy in place so you can focus on closing deals and serving your customers. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you all the best. And as always, enjoy pricing, everyone.